A flight of assumptions. Captain Olivia Carter had always been known as a no-nonsense leader. With over 2 decades of experience in the aviation industry, she had built her reputation on efficiency and precision. Her dedication to her craft was unmatched, but her brusque demeanor sometimes alienated those who worked under her. For Olivia, passengers were simply a part of the job, names on a manifest, faces she barely glanced at unless safety required her attention. On a sunny morning at Chicago O'Hare, Olivia prepared for her latest flight to Miami. It was a routine trip, and she approached it like any other. After completing her pre-flight checklist and briefing the crew, she stepped into the cabin to make her customary walk down the aisle. Observing the passengers had become a habit of hers, not out of curiosity, but as a measure of preparedness. A nervous flyer here, a distracted parent there, she prided herself on knowing her cabin's dynamics before takeoff. Seated quietly in 17A was Lena Morgan, an elegant woman in her early 30s. Dressed in a sleek black blouse and tailored slacks, Lena exuded a calm professionalism that drew no immediate attention. Her hair was neatly tied back, and her phone was already tucked away, her attention focused on the clouds outside the window. To most, she seemed like any other traveler. What no one realized, least of all Captain Carter, was that Lena was not just another passenger. She was the daughter of Victor Morgan, the enigmatic CEO and founder of Skyglide Airlines, the company operating this very flight. Lena had long mastered the art of blending in. She avoided using her father's influence unless absolutely necessary and prided herself on building her own career as a financial consultant. Today, she was flying to Miami for a conference. Though she preferred private charters, she often flew commercial for the anonymity it provided. Today, however, her attempt to remain unnoticed would fail spectacularly. As Olivia passed Lena's row, her sharp eye caught something that made her pause. Lena was gazing out the window, seemingly unaware that the seatbelt sign had been illuminated. Olivia frowned. Safety protocols were not optional on her flights. "Excuse me, miss," Olivia said, her tone curt. "The seatbelt sign has been on for several minutes. Please fasten yours immediately." Startled, Lena turned to face Olivia, her calm expression masking her surprise. She gave a polite nod and reached for her seatbelt, fastening it without a word. But Olivia didn't stop there. "Next time, I'd appreciate it if you followed instructions promptly," she added, her voice edged with authority. "We're about to take off, and safety isn't optional." Lena maintained her composure, her face betraying none of the irritation simmering beneath the surface. She had dealt with assumptions like this her entire life. People mistaking her calm demeanor for indifference or her preference for silence as a lack of understanding. She chose not to engage, fastening her belt with quiet dignity. Satisfied, Olivia moved on, turning her attention to the rest of the cabin. To her, it was a minor interaction, forgotten as quickly as it had happened. To Lena, however, it was yet another reminder of the subtle biases and condescension she often encountered. As the passengers settled in, Lena discreetly pulled out her phone and typed a quick message to her father. "Dad, I just had an unpleasant encounter with the captain on my flight. She spoke to me like I was some unruly passenger. It wasn't just what she said but how she said it." Victor Morgan received the text as he was wrapping up a meeting at Skyglide's headquarters. A man known for his meticulous attention to detail and unwavering loyalty to his family, Victor read the message twice, his expression darkening with each word. His daughter had always been his pride, and he had worked hard to ensure she could navigate the world on her own terms. Disrespect toward her, especially on a flight operated by his airline, was unacceptable. Victor leaned back in his chair, considering his next move. He wasn't a man who reacted impulsively, but he also wasn't one to let things slide. Picking up his phone, he began making calls, determined to address the situation swiftly and decisively. Back on the flight, Lena leaned back in her seat, doing her best to let the encounter roll off her shoulders. She wasn't one to make a scene or demand special treatment, but she also knew her father well enough to predict that her quiet would not mean inaction. As the plane ascended, Lena's phone vibrated. She glanced at the screen to find a reply from her father. "Leave it to me. She'll understand the gravity of her mistake soon enough." A small smile formed on Lena's lips. Her father's protective nature was one of his defining traits. While she didn't relish the thought of someone facing consequences on her behalf, she trusted her father's judgment. Meanwhile, Olivia continued about her duties, oblivious to the brewing storm. She worked efficiently, managing her crew and monitoring the flight's progress. To her, the exchange with Lena had been insignificant, a routine part of maintaining order in the cabin. She had no idea that her words had set off a chain of events that would soon upend her career. As the flight progressed, Lena observed Olivia interacting with other passengers. The captain's demeanor was authoritative but not overtly unkind, though Lena couldn't shake the feeling that their earlier encounter had been tinged with something more than professional concern. It wasn't the first time Lena had been treated dismissively, and she doubted it would be the last. Still, she couldn't help but wonder how Olivia would react when she realized the truth. By the time the plane touched down in Miami, Victor Morgan's plan was already in motion. Lena disembarked without incident, maintaining her quiet composure as she collected her luggage and hailed a car to her hotel. She had no intention of interfering further, trusting her father to handle the situation. Back in Chicago, however, Victor's phone was ringing non-stop. Calls from Skyglide executives, legal advisors, and PR specialists flooded in as word spread of the incident. Victor remained calm but firm, laying out his expectations clearly. The matter would be investigated thoroughly, and Captain Carter would be held accountable for her actions. For Olivia, the first inkling that something was amiss came 2 days later, when she was summoned to a meeting with Skyglide's executive board. She entered the room with confidence, assuming it was a routine debrief. But the tension in the air quickly made her realize this was no ordinary meeting. "Captain Carter," one of the executives began, "we've received a complaint regarding your conduct on Flight 237 to Miami. Specifically, an interaction with a passenger in seat 17A. Olivia frowned, her mind racing as she tried to recall the flight. "I don't recall any significant issues," she said. "I addressed a passenger about fastening their seatbelt. It was a standard safety procedure." The executive exchanged a glance with his colleagues. That passenger was Lena Morgan. Olivia blinked, the name failing to register at first. "I'm sorry, who?" "Lena Morgan," the executive repeated. "The daughter of Victor Morgan, CEO and founder of Skyglide Airlines." The weight of the revelation hit Olivia like a thunderclap. Her heart sank as the implications became clear. She had unwittingly chastised the owner's daughter, and now, her career hung in the balance. Unbeknownst to Olivia, Lena had no desire to see her fired. But Victor Morgan was determined to use the incident as a teachable moment, not just for Olivia, but for the entire airline. He believed in accountability, and while he admired Olivia's dedication to her job, he knew she needed to learn the importance of treating every passenger with respect. As the meeting continued, Olivia listened intently, her confidence replaced by a growing sense of humility. She realized that her actions, however routine they seemed to her, had carried unintended consequences. And as she braced herself for the fallout, she couldn't help but wonder if her career could recover from this pivotal misstep. The stage was set for a reckoning, but also for a chance at redemption. What Olivia didn't yet know was that this encounter, though painful, would ultimately lead to growth, for herself, for Lena, and for the airline as a whole. The story was far from over, and the lessons it held were just beginning to unfold. The unraveling begins. Captain Olivia Carter left the executive board meeting feeling like the air had been knocked out of her lungs. Her years of experience, her spotless record, and her unshakable confidence, all seemed fragile in the wake of the revelation. The name Lena Morgan echoed in her mind like a drumbeat. She had unknowingly directed her sharp words toward the daughter of Victor Morgan, one of the most powerful figures in the aviation industry, the very man responsible for her position as a captain with Skyglide Airlines. For Olivia, the situation was surreal. She had always prided herself on fairness and professionalism. But now, a simple interaction, a moment she had already forgotten, was being scrutinized at the highest levels. And it wasn't just her career at stake. It was her reputation, her pride, and the principles she had built her career on. Back in Miami, Lena Morgan attended the financial conference that had brought her there. Despite her usual poise, her thoughts kept drifting back to the incident on the flight. She wasn't angry, not anymore. But she couldn't ignore the subtle sting of how Captain Carter's tone had implied she was less than deserving of basic respect. Lena had encountered these microaggressions throughout her life, even as someone who had achieved great success in her own right. This wasn't about revenge, it was about principle. She texted her father, "Dad, I don't want anyone to lose their job over this. Please handle it delicately." Victor Morgan read the message with a furrowed brow. His daughter's forgiveness was admirable, but his protective instincts remained strong. This wasn't just about Lena, it was about the culture at Skyglide Airlines, a company he had built with the belief that every passenger deserved dignity and respect. If Captain Carter's actions were a reflection of deeper issues within the company, he intended to root them out. While Lena focused on her conference, Victor's actions set a wave of repercussions into motion. An internal investigation was launched, with passengers and crew members from Flight 237 being interviewed. The flight attendants confirmed Olivia's professionalism but also admitted that her tone could sometimes come across as brusque, even intimidating. "Captain Carter is an excellent pilot," one crew member said during the interview. "But she doesn't always read the room. Sometimes, her way of addressing passengers feels more like she's reprimanding them than helping them." Meanwhile, passengers on the flight had mixed recollections. Some didn't remember the interaction at all, while others had noticed the exchange between Olivia and Lena. "It didn't seem like a big deal," one passenger said. "But the captain's tone was sharp. It was hard not to notice." Back in Chicago, Olivia struggled to focus on her next flights. The tension from the investigation hung over her like a storm cloud. She replayed the interaction with Lena in her mind, dissecting every word and gesture. Had she really been unfair? Was her tone inappropriate? Or was this all an overreaction to something minor? Her thoughts were interrupted by a call from her union representative. "Olivia, I've been brought up to speed on the situation," the rep said. "You need to prepare yourself. Victor Morgan is personally involved in this, and when the CEO takes interest, it's serious." "I didn't mean any harm," Olivia replied defensively. "I was enforcing safety protocols. That's my job." "I understand," the rep said. "But perception matters, Olivia. This isn't just about what you did, it's about how it was perceived." Meanwhile, Lena's quiet approach to the situation began to catch the attention of the public. A journalist who had overheard whispers about the incident reached out to Lena for a comment. Though reluctant to bring more attention to the matter, Lena felt compelled to speak up, not about herself, but about the broader issues the incident represented. "I don't want to single out Captain Carter," Lena told the journalist. "This isn't about one person. It's about how we treat each other, especially in positions of authority. Respect shouldn't be optional, it should be the baseline." The journalist's article, titled, "When Power Meets Principle, A Skyglide Era Speaks Out," went viral within hours of publication. While Lena's tone was measured and thoughtful, the public reaction was anything but. Social media erupted with debates over the incident, with some defending Captain Carter as a no-nonsense professional and others criticizing her for failing to recognize Lena's humanity. Victor Morgan, watching the firestorm unfold, realized the situation was spiraling out of control. He called Lena that evening, his tone firm but affectionate. "Lena, I admire your grace, but we need to address this head-on," he said. "I've scheduled a meeting with Captain Carter. I want you to be there." Lena hesitated. Dad, are you sure that's necessary? I don't want her to feel ambushed. It's not about ambushing anyone, Victor replied. It's about having an honest conversation. This isn't just about you, it's about the culture we're fostering at Skyglide. The meeting was set for the following week at Skyglide's headquarters in Chicago. When Olivia received the summons, she felt a mixture of dread and determination. She knew this was her opportunity to explain herself, but she also knew it wouldn't be easy. The stakes were higher than they had ever been in her career. On the day of the meeting, Olivia arrived early, dressed in her crispest uniform. She was ushered into a conference room where Victor and Lena were waiting. Victor's presence was commanding, but it was Lena's calm demeanor that put Olivia on edge. She had expected anger or indignation, but Lena's quiet composure was disarming. Captain Carter, Victor began, his voice even but firm, thank you for coming. This isn't an easy conversation, but it's an important one. Olivia nodded, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. The meeting ended on a hopeful note. While Olivia left knowing she still had work to do to rebuild trust, she also felt a sense of clarity. Lena's willingness to engage in dialogue rather than condemnation had been a wake-up call, one she intended to take seriously. As for Lena, she left the meeting feeling that justice had been served, not through punishment, but through understanding. Her father's belief in accountability had sparked a conversation that would ripple far beyond one flight, influencing the culture of Skyglide Airlines for years to come. And for Victor, the incident reaffirmed his commitment to the values he had built his company on: respect, accountability, and the unwavering belief that everyone, no matter their title, background, or seat number, deserves to be treated with dignity. The stage was now set for the healing and growth that would follow, both for Captain Carter and the airline as a whole, the ripples of accountability. The days following the meeting at Skyglide headquarters were pivotal for everyone involved. Captain Olivia Carter, once known for her unwavering authority in the cockpit, found herself navigating an entirely different kind of turbulence. Lena Morgan, meanwhile, reflected on the encounter, realizing that the lessons learned extended far beyond her personal experience. And Victor Morgan, ever the strategist, began laying the groundwork for change that would echo throughout his airline. Olivia's reckoning. Olivia spent the next week grounded, not because of disciplinary action, but because she had requested time off to reflect and recalibrate. The meeting with Victor and Lena had left her feeling humbled and, in some ways, exposed. For years, she had prided herself on her ability to maintain order and control, but now she realized that her approach had lacked one crucial element: empathy. Sitting at her kitchen table one evening, Olivia opened her laptop and began researching leadership training programs. She stumbled upon a seminar titled Leading with Empathy, Transforming Authority into Influence. It felt like exactly what she needed. The seminar, held at a local conference center, was attended by professionals from various industries. Olivia walked into the room feeling out of place. This was far removed from the structured environment of an airplane cockpit. The session began with a simple but powerful exercise. Participants were asked to share a moment when they felt dismissed or underestimated. When it was Olivia's turn, she hesitated before speaking. I've spent my career in a position of authority, she began. But recently, I realized that authority without understanding isn't leadership, it's just control. I made a passenger feel less than human because I was too focused on the rules to see the person. The facilitator nodded, encouraging her to continue. And what have you learned from that experience? That authority isn't enough, Olivia said, her voice steady. You have to meet people where they are. You have to see them. The room was silent for a moment before another participant spoke up. That's powerful. Recognizing the humanity in others, it's something we all need to work on. For Olivia, the seminar was a turning point. She left with a renewed sense of purpose, determined to integrate what she had learned into her daily interactions, both on and off the job. Lena's reflection. Back in Miami, Lena Morgan wrapped up her conference with a newfound sense of clarity. The meeting with Captain Carter had stirred something in her, a recognition of the fine line between holding someone accountable and offering them a path to redemption. She found herself thinking about her mother, who had always taught her to lead with grace. "People will make mistakes, Lena," her mother had once said. "What matters is how they choose to grow from them, and how you choose to respond." As Lena boarded her return flight to Chicago, she noticed subtle changes in the Skyglide staff. The crew seemed more attentive, their smiles more genuine. When the captain made an announcement over the intercom, his tone was warm and personable, a stark contrast to the detached professionalism she had grown accustomed to. When the flight attendant approached her seat with a drink, Lena couldn't help but smile. "You're doing a wonderful job," she said. The attendant's eyes lit up. "Thank you, Ms. Morgan. We've been working on improving the passenger experience." "It means a lot to hear that." Lena leaned back in her seat, realizing that her father's influence was already making waves. She felt a deep sense of pride, not just in him, but in the potential for meaningful change. Victor's vision. For Victor Morgan, the incident with Lena and Captain Carter was a wake-up call. He had always believed in running his company with integrity, but he now saw that even the best intentions could be undermined by complacency. The airline industry was fast-paced and high-stress, and the human element often got lost in the chaos. Victor called a meeting with his senior leadership team. "We need to set a new standard," he said. "Not just for safety and efficiency, but for how we treat people, our passengers and our staff." The team discussed ways to implement this vision. One idea stood out: creating a mandatory empathy training program for all Skyglide employees, from executives to flight crews. The program would focus on emotional intelligence, active listening, and understanding diverse perspectives. "Empathy isn't just a buzzword," Victor said. "It's a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned. If we want to be leaders in this industry, we have to lead with humanity." The program, dubbed Skyheart, was launched within weeks. Employees were initially skeptical, some saw it as a corporate PR move, while others worried it would be a waste of time. But as the training sessions rolled out, attitudes began to shift. Olivia's second chance. Olivia was one of the first employees to attend the Skyheart program. Despite her initial reservations, she found the sessions deeply impactful. The training included role-playing exercises where participants had to step into the shoes of passengers facing various challenges: fear of flying, language barriers, or disabilities. One exercise hit particularly close to home. Olivia was assigned the role of a passenger who had been unfairly singled out by airline staff. As she acted out the scenario, she felt a pang of recognition. It mirrored her interaction with Lena. By the end of the training, Olivia felt a profound sense of responsibility, not just to her passengers, but to her crew and her colleagues. She realized that leadership wasn't about commanding respect, it was about earning it. When Olivia returned to work, she was greeted with cautious smiles from her crew. The investigation had made its rounds, and everyone was curious to see how she would handle the scrutiny. Her first flight back was a short trip from Chicago to New York. As the passengers boarded, Olivia made a point to greet them personally, something she had rarely done before. One elderly woman looked up at her and said, "It's nice to see a captain who cares." Olivia smiled, her resolve strengthening. "I do care," she said. "More than you know." A shared mission. A month after the meeting, Lena received an unexpected call from Olivia. "Ms. Morgan," Olivia began, her voice steady but sincere. "I wanted to thank you. Our meeting was a turning point for me. I've learned a lot since then, and I hope I can prove to you, and to myself, that I'm better for it." Lena was taken aback but genuinely touched. "Thank you, Captain Carter. It takes courage to grow, and I respect that. Let's both continue to do better." As they ended the call, Lena felt a sense of closure. The incident had been uncomfortable, even painful at times, but it had also sparked growth, for Olivia, for Skyglide, and for herself. A legacy of change. By the end of the year, Skyheart had become a cornerstone of Skyglide's culture. Employee satisfaction rose, and passenger feedback became overwhelmingly positive. Victor's decision to address the issue head-on had paid off, not just in numbers but in the intangible sense of pride that now permeated the company. For Olivia, the journey wasn't over. She knew that becoming the kind of leader she aspired to be would take continuous effort. But for the first time in years, she felt truly connected to her role, not just as a pilot, but as a steward of trust and humanity. As for Lena, she continued to champion her father's vision, using her platform to advocate for empathy and accountability in all industries. The experience had reminded her that even the smallest interactions could have a profound impact, and she was determined to use her influence for good. Together, they had turned a moment of conflict into a catalyst for change, proving that with courage and compassion, even the most turbulent flights could lead to clear skies. The winds of change. The Skyheart initiative had begun rolling out across the airline, but its effects were just beginning to ripple through the company. For Captain Olivia Carter, the empathy training had been an eye-opener, but her journey of self-reflection and improvement was far from over. Lena Morgan, on the other hand, was grappling with her newfound role as an advocate for change, something she hadn't intended but now felt obligated to embrace. Meanwhile, Victor Morgan was preparing for the next phase of his plan to transform Skyglide Airlines into a symbol of excellence, not just in service but in values. Olivia's road to redemption. For Olivia, returning to the cockpit after the Skyheart training was both a relief and a test. Her first few flights had gone smoothly, but she couldn't shake the feeling that her crew was observing her more closely than usual. The lingering tension wasn't surprising. Her behavior during the incident with Lena had made the rounds among employees, and Olivia knew she had to work twice as hard to rebuild trust. On a particularly busy flight to Denver, Olivia decided to implement some of what she had learned. As the plane reached cruising altitude, she stepped out of the cockpit to greet the passengers. It was a small gesture, but one that carried weight. She walked down the aisle, offering a warm smile and checking in with passengers who seemed nervous or uncomfortable. "Is everything okay?" she asked a young woman who was clutching the armrest with white knuckles. "I hate flying," the woman admitted, her voice trembling. Olivia knelt beside her seat, keeping her tone calm and reassuring. "I understand. Flying can feel overwhelming, but I promise you're in good hands. If you need anything, just let the crew or me know, okay?" The woman nodded, her grip on the armrest loosening slightly. Nearby passengers exchanged surprised glances. It wasn't every day that a captain took the time to connect with passengers on such a personal level. By the end of the flight, Olivia felt a small but significant sense of accomplishment. It wasn't just about doing her job, it was about doing it with care and intention. Lena finds her voice. Back in Chicago, Lena was adjusting to the attention her story had garnered. The article highlighting her experience and her commitment to fostering change had catapulted her into the public eye, much to her discomfort. She had always preferred to work behind the scenes, letting her actions speak louder than her words. But now, she found herself being invited to panels, interviews, and conferences to speak about her experience and the broader implications for corporate culture. At first, Lena hesitated to accept these invitations. She didn't see herself as an activist or a spokesperson. But after some reflection, and a long conversation with her father, she decided to step into the role. "This isn't about me," Lena said during a dinner with Victor. "It's about something bigger. If I can use my experience to make people think differently, then maybe it's worth it." Victor nodded, pride evident in his expression. "You've always had the power to inspire, Lena. Now the world gets to see what I've known all along." Her first major speaking engagement was at a leadership conference in New York. Standing in front of a packed auditorium, Lena felt a wave of nerves but steadied herself with a deep breath. "My experience wasn't unique," she began. It was just one example of what happens when we forget to see each other as human beings. Respect and empathy aren't extras. They're essentials, especially in positions of authority. The audience was captivated, her words resonating deeply. By the end of her speech, Lena had not only shared her story but ignited a conversation about the importance of values in leadership. Victor's strategic vision. For Victor Morgan, the success of the Skyheart initiative was only the beginning. He wanted to ensure that the lessons learned from the incident were woven into the very fabric of Skyglide's operations. To achieve this, he convened a meeting with his top executives and department heads. "We're not just running an airline," Victor said, his voice firm but inspiring. "We're setting a standard. Every interaction, every decision, big or small, reflects who we are as a company. If we want to lead the industry, we have to lead with integrity." One of the executives raised a hand. "Victor, the Skyheart training has been well received, but how do we measure its impact? How do we ensure it's not just a one-time thing?" Victor smiled, anticipating the question. "We integrate it into everything we do, performance reviews, customer feedback, even hiring practices. Empathy isn't just a skill, it's a mindset. And it's one we need to nurture at every level." The team brainstormed ways to embed the initiative into the company's culture. They decided to create an annual Skyheart Award to recognize employees who exemplified the values of empathy, respect, and leadership. The award would come with not just recognition but opportunities for career growth, reinforcing the idea that values and success were deeply connected. An unexpected reunion. Weeks later, Olivia received an email that stopped her in her tracks. It was from Lena Morgan, inviting her to speak at a panel discussion about leadership and empathy. The invitation was unexpected, but Olivia felt a mix of gratitude and apprehension. She knew this was an opportunity to show how far she had come, but the prospect of sharing a stage with Lena was daunting. After much thought, Olivia accepted. On the day of the event, she arrived early, her nerves evident but controlled. Lena greeted her with a warm smile. "Thank you for coming," Lena said. "It means a lot." Olivia nodded. "Thank you for inviting me. I'm honored, and a little nervous, to be honest." Lena chuckled. "You'll do great. Just speak from the heart." During the panel, Olivia shared her journey, from the incident with Lena to the lessons she had learned through the Skyheart training. She spoke candidly about her mistakes and how they had pushed her to grow. "Leadership isn't about being perfect," Olivia said. "It's about being willing to learn, to adapt, and to do better. That's what I've taken away from this experience." The audience responded with a standing ovation, moved by her honesty and humility. For Olivia, it was a moment of redemption, not just in the eyes of others but in her own. A new standard. As Skyglide Airlines continued to evolve, the impact of the Skyheart initiative became increasingly evident. Employee morale improved, customer satisfaction soared, and the company's reputation as a leader in compassionate service solidified. For Lena, her journey as an advocate had only just begun. She continued to use her platform to promote empathy and accountability, not just within Skyglide but in industries across the board. For Olivia, her transformation was ongoing. She became a mentor to younger pilots, sharing her story as a cautionary tale and a source of inspiration. Her renewed commitment to leadership earned her the respect of her peers and the trust of her passengers. And for Victor, the incident that could have tarnished his airline's reputation had instead become a catalyst for change. His unwavering belief in the power of values had turned a moment of conflict into a legacy of growth and integrity. In the end, the experience was a reminder to everyone involved that even the most challenging moments could lead to profound change. With courage, accountability, and a commitment to doing better, they had not only weathered the storm but emerged stronger, ready to face the skies ahead. Breaking barriers, building bridges. Months after the incident that had sparked the Skyheart initiative, the ripple effects were being felt far beyond Skyglide Airlines. The airline had become a symbol of corporate introspection and reform, with companies from various industries reaching out to Victor Morgan to learn more about embedding empathy and accountability into their cultures. However, the journey was far from over. For Captain Olivia Carter, Lena Morgan, and Victor Morgan, the stakes were personal, and each of them faced new challenges that tested their resolve. Olivia's leadership reimagined. Captain Olivia Carter was back in the cockpit, but her approach to her role had fundamentally shifted. No longer content with simply maintaining authority, Olivia had made it her mission to lead by example. Her interactions with passengers and crew had become more thoughtful, and she was earning a new kind of respect, not just for her skills as a pilot but for her ability to connect with those around her. On one particularly stormy night, during a turbulent flight from Boston to Chicago, Olivia's newfound approach was put to the test. The passengers were visibly nervous as the plane rocked through heavy winds. Olivia decided to leave the cockpit and address them personally. Taking the intercom, she said, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. I know the turbulence is uncomfortable, and I want to assure you that we are monitoring the situation closely. Your safety is our top priority, and we'll get through this together." Then she did something unprecedented. She walked down the aisle, speaking directly to passengers who looked especially uneasy. One young boy, gripping his mother's arm tightly, caught her attention. "Hi there," Olivia said, crouching down to his level. "What's your name?" "Evan," the boy whispered, his eyes wide with fear. "Well, Evan, did you know I've flown through storms like this hundreds of times? And every time, we make it safely to the other side. You're in good hands, I promise." The boy nodded, his grip loosening slightly. His mother mouthed a heartfelt "thank you" as Olivia moved on. By the time the plane landed safely in Chicago, the passengers were applauding, not for the smooth landing, but for the reassurance and care Olivia had shown. For Olivia, it was a moment of affirmation. Empathy didn't just make her a better leader, it made her a better person. Lena's expanding role. While Olivia was redefining leadership in the skies, Lena Morgan was navigating her growing role as a public figure. The success of her speaking engagements and the impact of the Skyheart initiative had made her a sought-after voice on leadership, diversity, and corporate accountability. Lena's schedule became a whirlwind of conferences, interviews, and panels. One day, she received an invitation to speak at a global leadership summit in London. The event was a prestigious gathering of CEOs, policymakers, and thought leaders from around the world. At first, Lena hesitated. She still felt like an outsider in such high-powered circles. But her father encouraged her to seize the opportunity. "Lena, you have something unique to offer," Victor said during one of their late-night phone calls. "You're not just speaking as the daughter of a CEO, you're speaking as someone who's lived these experiences. Your voice matters." When Lena took the stage in London, she spoke with a confidence she hadn't realized she possessed. Her message was clear: true leadership isn't about power, it's about accountability, empathy, and the courage to admit when you're wrong. "Leadership isn't a title," Lena said, her voice steady and resolute. "It's a responsibility. And the most important part of that responsibility is seeing the humanity in others." Her speech received a standing ovation, and afterward, several attendees approached her to share how her words had resonated with them. "You're redefining what leadership looks like," one attendee said. "Thank you for reminding us what really matters." Victor's next steps. Victor Morgan, always thinking several steps ahead, saw the potential to expand the impact of the Skyheart initiative beyond Skyglide Airlines. He began reaching out to other industry leaders, proposing a coalition of companies dedicated to fostering empathy and accountability in their organizations. "We have an opportunity to set a new standard," Victor said during a meeting with CEOs from other airlines. "This isn't just about corporate responsibility, it's about creating a culture where people feel valued, respected, and understood." The coalition, dubbed the Empathy Alliance, quickly gained traction. Companies from various industries signed on, committing to implement training programs, revise policies, and prioritize employee and customer well-being. Victor's vision was becoming a reality, and Skyglide Airlines was at the forefront of a movement that was changing the way businesses operated. An unexpected encounter. One day, while Lena was at Skyglide headquarters for a meeting, she ran into Captain Olivia Carter in the hallway. The two women hadn't seen each other since the panel discussion, and their interaction was initially hesitant. "Captain Carter," Lena said, offering a polite smile. "It's good to see you." "Ms. Morgan," Olivia replied, her tone respectful. "Likewise." After a brief pause, Lena added, "I've been hearing great things about you from the crew. It sounds like you've really embraced the Skyheart principles." Olivia nodded. "I have. And I have you to thank for that. You made me see things differently." Lena tilted her head, considering Olivia's words. "Well, I think we both learned something from all of this. Growth isn't always comfortable, but it's necessary." They exchanged a genuine smile before parting ways, both feeling a sense of closure and mutual respect. A personal milestone. As Skyglide Airlines continued to thrive, Victor decided to celebrate the company's progress with a special event honoring the first recipients of the Skyheart Award. The ceremony was held in a grand ballroom, with employees from all levels of the organization in attendance. To Olivia's surprise, she was one of the award recipients. As she stepped onto the stage to accept the honor, she felt a wave of emotions: pride, humility, and gratitude. In her acceptance speech, Olivia said, "This award isn't just for me, it's for everyone who's been part of this journey. It's a reminder that we're all capable of change, and that every interaction is an opportunity to make a difference." Lena, sitting in the audience, felt a swell of pride for both Olivia and her father. The journey had been challenging, but it had led to something extraordinary: a culture of accountability, empathy, and excellence. Bridging the gap. By the end of the evening, the ballroom was filled with a sense of hope and unity. Employees who had once viewed leadership as distant and impersonal now felt connected to a larger purpose. For Lena, Olivia, and Victor, it was a moment of triumph, but also a reminder that the work was never done. As the night drew to a close, Lena approached her father. "You've built something incredible here, Dad," she said. Victor smiled, his eyes filled with pride. "We built it together, Lena. And this is just the beginning." For Olivia, Lena, and Victor, the journey had been one of transformation, both personal and professional. They had faced turbulence, but together, they had charted a course toward a brighter, more compassionate future. And as they looked ahead, they knew that the lessons they had learned would continue to guide them, inspiring others to follow their lead. Taking flight into a new horizon. The evening following the Skyheart Award ceremony, a sense of renewal and accomplishment filled the air at Skyglide Airlines. The event had been a celebration of progress, a reflection of the company's commitment to growth, and an acknowledgement of the individuals who had embraced change. But for Captain Olivia Carter, Lena Morgan, and Victor Morgan, the journey wasn't just about personal redemption or professional milestones, it was about creating a legacy that would outlast them all. Olivia's bold leap forward. Weeks after receiving her Skyheart Award, Olivia found herself reflecting on how far she had come. The incident with Lena had forced her to reevaluate not only her leadership style but her perspective on life. Yet, something in her still felt unsettled. She realized that while she had grown tremendously, there was one thing she hadn't yet faced head-on: mentoring the next generation. As the senior pilot for one of Skyglide's busiest routes, Olivia had always been focused on efficiency and precision. But she now saw the untapped potential in fostering growth among younger pilots. Taking a deep breath, she approached the airline's training director with an idea: a mentorship program for aspiring captains, focusing on not only technical skills but also leadership and empathy. "We train our pilots to handle emergencies, turbulence, and mechanical failures," Olivia explained during the meeting. "But we don't train them enough to handle people, crew members, passengers, or even themselves. I want to change that. The director was intrigued. Within weeks, the SkyPath mentorship program was launched, with Olivia as its first lead mentor. The program paired experienced captains with newly promoted first officers, creating a structured environment for guidance, feedback, and personal development. Olivia poured her heart into the program, meeting regularly with her ments, sharing her own experiences, including her mistakes, and encouraging them to see leadership as a holistic responsibility. For the first time in her career, she felt like she was making an impact beyond the cockpit, shaping the future of aviation leadership. Lena's global reach. For Lena Morgan, the success of the Skyheart initiative and her growing influence as a thought leader opened doors she had never imagined. Invitations poured in from organizations, universities, and even governments seeking her insights on corporate accountability in empathy-driven leadership. One day, she received an email from the United Nations, inviting her to join a global panel on corporate ethics and human rights. The invitation left her stunned. It was one thing to speak at business conferences and leadership summits, but this was a platform with the potential to influence policies and impact millions of lives. Lena called her father for advice. "Dad, this is bigger than anything I've done before. What if I'm not ready?" Victor's voice was warm but firm. "Lena, you've been ready your entire life. This isn't just about you, it's about the values you stand for. Speak from the heart, and the world will listen." At the UN panel, Lena shared her story, framing it as a microcosm of the challenges and opportunities within corporate culture. She spoke about how one moment of misunderstanding had led to transformative change, not only for Skyglide but for herself and others. The lesson, Lena said, is that accountability and empathy aren't just corporate buzzwords. They're the foundation of trust, the currency of leadership, and the path to a better world. Her speech was met with a standing ovation, and Lena was approached afterward by representatives from several nations who wanted to collaborate on initiatives promoting corporate responsibility. Though overwhelmed, Lena felt a profound sense of purpose. This was no longer just her father's legacy, it was becoming her own. Victor's lasting legacy. Victor Morgan's vision for Skyglide Airlines had always been about more than profits and growth. As the founder and CEO, he had built the company from the ground up, infusing it with values that reflected his belief in the power of human connection. But as he watched his daughter flourish and his employees embrace the Skyheart principles, Victor began to think about his legacy. At a board meeting, Victor made an announcement that left the room in stunned silence. He would be stepping down as CEO at the end of the year. "It's time," Victor said, his voice steady but emotional. "Skyglide has grown beyond me, and that's exactly how it should be. Leadership isn't about holding on, it's about knowing when to let go and trust the next generation." The board was initially hesitant, but Victor assured them that the company was in good hands. He had already begun grooming his successor, a visionary COO named Elena Martinez, who had played a key role in implementing the Skyheart initiative. Victor's decision sparked a wave of reflection within the company. Employees at every level felt a renewed sense of ownership and pride, knowing they were part of something greater than themselves. A shared victory. On Victor's final day as CEO, Skyglide hosted a farewell event at their headquarters. Employees, partners, and even competitors gathered to celebrate his contributions and bid him farewell. Lena and Olivia were both in attendance, their journeys deeply intertwined with Victor's vision. When Victor took the stage to deliver his farewell speech, the room fell silent. "When I started Skyglide, I never imagined it would become what it is today," he began. "But this isn't just my legacy, it's ours. It's the pilots who ensure every flight is safe, the crew who make passengers feel at home, the executives who make tough decisions with integrity, and the passengers who remind us why we do what we do." He paused, his gaze sweeping the room. "If there's one thing I've learned, it's that leadership is a collective effort. It's about lifting each other up, holding each other accountable, and never losing sight of our shared humanity." The crowd erupted in applause, and Victor stepped down from the stage, his heart full. The flight ahead. As the event wound down, Lena and Olivia found themselves standing together, watching Victor mingle with the crowd. "He's proud of you, you know," Olivia said, breaking the silence. Lena smiled. "And he's proud of you, too. You've come a long way, Captain Carter." Olivia nodded. "We both have. And I think we're just getting started." Lena extended her hand. "Here's to the future. May it be bright and full of possibilities." Olivia shook her hand firmly. "Here's to making it so." Epilogue: Soaring to New Heights. In the years that followed, Skyglide Airlines continued to thrive under Elena Martinez's leadership. The Skyheart initiative became a model for other companies, and the Empathy Alliance expanded its reach, influencing industries from healthcare to education. Captain Olivia Carter became a legend within the airline, not for her years of service but for her transformation into a mentor and leader who inspired countless others. She eventually retired with accolades, leaving behind a legacy of compassion and excellence. Lena Morgan's influence only grew. She launched a foundation dedicated to promoting empathy and accountability in leadership, partnering with organizations worldwide to create lasting change. And Victor Morgan? He finally allowed himself to relax, spending his days traveling the world, not as a CEO but as a passenger, marveling at the company he had built and the people who had taken it to new heights. Together, they had turned a moment of misunderstanding into a movement, proving that even the most turbulent flights could lead to clear skies. With courage, empathy, and a shared commitment to growth, they had taken flight into a new horizon. And inspired countless others to do the same.